Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I'm doing my April wrap-up. In the month of April I read 10 books miraculously, although to be honest, at least half of them were not anywhere near my TBR, so I mean take that as you will. Let's get into the books. The first one is Daughter of Molokai by Alan Brenner. This is a sequel to his book Molokai, which follows a young girl who is diagnosed with leprosy and sent to the leper colony of Molokai at the end of the 1800s when she is 7. This book, Daughter of Molokai, follows one of the characters that we meet through the Japanese internment and World War II and the 50s and all the rest of it in California. I gave Daughter of Molokai 5 out of 5 stars, hands down. Next I finished Earth by David Brin, which is a science fiction set in 2040 because it was a 50-year science fiction from 1990. I did do a full review for this book, so I'll leave that link down below if you want to check it out, but absolutely loved it, 5 out of 5 stars. Next I finished Middlemarch by George Eliot. This one I read on Kindle and enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I've read something by George Eliot before. I read Silas Marner back in, I want to say October, and it just wasn't really my style. It didn't feel good, I guess. I mean, it wasn't a bad book, but it wasn't my favorite. So when I started reading Middlemarch, I didn't necessarily have super high expectations, but it turns out that I loved this book. The relationships between the characters were fascinating, it was easy to read, and it was just sort of engaging. It was very engaging. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is the second in the Ender's Game quartet. I actually have this book here, Speaker for the Dead, and this takes place after, obviously, the events of the first book, following the same character, but it's about 2,000 years later, or something like that. I loved the look at science versus religion and how different species relate, and the world building of this new planet I thought was amazing. So I did give it 4 out of 5 stars because there were parts where it just seemed to really drag and it took me out of the story. Next I read The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chokshi. This is a YA historical fantasy set in 1889 in Paris. It follows a group of 6 people who all have various skills or powers, and all of them are people of color, which means that they are not exactly treated the best in 1889 Paris. They have to find an artifact and basically beat the upper class white society of Paris, specifically the more magical part of it, which is what they're fighting against. But I absolutely loved this book. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, maybe a 4.5, because again, there were parts where I thought she could have done more to explain it or been clearer, etc. However, one of my favorite parts was how much she used gemstone in this book. Everything is in gemstone and the descriptions are beautiful. So if you haven't read this book yet, I highly recommend it. I read books 1, 2, and 3 of Caroline Lawrence's Roman Mysteries series, which are The Thieves of Ostia, The Secrets of Vesuvius, and The Pirates of Pompeii. These books I gave a 5, 4, or 3.5, and a 5, respectively. They follow 4 young kids between the ages of 8 and 10 in ancient Rome. The first one is set in Ostia, which is a port city, and they figure out who has been killing dogs and beheading them, which is a gruesome crime in and of itself. I loved watching the characters grow through these first 3 books. I think the third one did the best at that, figuring out how these characters grew and how their background affected them. The main character is a rich Roman girl. Her father is a captain of merchant ships. One of them is a Christian who was originally Jewish, and one of them is a mute beggar. Well, he was a beggar, he's sort of been adopted, and the last one is a slave girl that was bought by our main character. So watching all 4 of those people interact with the adults in their life was highly enjoyable. I also love the setting of it. Ancient Rome is not something you see a lot of times. I got these books from Abby from Autumn of Pelinor's booktube, and I'm really glad I went and found them because I think they're fantastic. The second one, they are in the Pompeii, or this small town right in between Pompeii and Herculaneum, so it apparently mostly gets obliterated, but not quite, when Vesuvius erupts. And then the third one takes place after Vesuvius has erupted, and sort of the fallout of that, and who is kidnapping children. The second one I don't remember quite as vividly, but I do remember liking it. It just didn't seem quite as good or as gripping as the first and the third. I am planning on continuing the series though. Next I read the final book in Amanda Lovelace's poetry trilogy, which is The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one. I think I gave this one a 3 or a 4 out of 5. This one didn't hit me like the first two did. All of them have trigger warnings for everything almost, so do take that in mind. But I love her writing. I think it's a brilliant new to me, of writing poetry. It's accessible, it's evocative, but like I said, this one didn't quite hit me the way the first two did. And the last book is one that was actually on my TBR, and that is Deathcaster by Cinda Williams-Chima. Oh my gosh. 5 out of 5, all the stars, all the feels, I can't. This is the last book. It's the conclusion to her quartet of the Shattered Realms series, which follows her Seven Realms series. Yes, you do have to read 7 before Shattered. Without spoilers, all I can say is read these books because they are amazing. But that's all I'm going to say for that. That's all I have. Those are the 10 books I read in April. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. That's all I have. Those are the 10 books I read in April. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.